Greetings, December 29th, 2014. Well, the most important part of the drawing now, for the that'll be part of the that the mosaic will be constructed around, is now done, which is the head, because I always start with the head, because if the head doesn't turn out right, then I have to start over again, because, well, it wouldn't make any sense to continue with all the sections that will be done afterwards if the portrait head portion is not done to my personal satisfaction. So there you have it, to be continued. I'm going to kind of just work from the collar all the way down to the feet. See, I've made a grid of 5 sections, which I recreated here. So that's where the shoes will be, down there. Hands in the center. It looks like he's holding a book, perhaps the Christian Bible. Hard to say, could be a journal. So to be continued. Greetings, January 2nd, 2015. So I decided to not proceed with doing the entire figure of Pére Jacques' cassock, or whatever the robe is called, down to his feet with the sandals he's wearing, entirely in black and white India ink. And I've collaged on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections of a King David woodcut that were printed in gold ink on black paper. This one has a like a horn, like a trumpet, and colored pencil on it. Also 2 drawing fragments from a different drawing. There on the right, around where his elbow would be, and there on the lower left, next to adjoining where his right foot is, which would be on viewer's left. Also in the center here, a pencil drawing, which I never completed, from 2001. It's going to be completed now in an entirely different context. 2 rimonim that you see here. It says rimonim with 2 chest ribs, which happen to fit anatomically around where his ribs would be. And then we have it like on this, some sort of, I don't know, platform. I don't remember what it was that I drew, but there was a large plant I had drawn there with this, I don't know what it kind of looks like, a dried flower there. So that will all be worked up, and we'll see what we end up with, or what I end up with. More opaque than I wanted, but that's okay. It gives it some variety of tone here. I'm going to be going over these sections with ink on the outlines anyway. So this is on the bottom of the Pére Jacques work, which I have since cut out of the large rectangular. I've left about an inch to an inch and a half border all the way around it, which will enable. Well, I'll show that another time from the previous mosaic. But when the drawing is reinserted in the frame that will be built in the base of the mosaic, it will enable me to have to seal in the plexiglass that will cover the drawing without having it cover over any of the drawn areas. So hopefully that will make sense to the people seeing this, but I won't worry about it for now, because I have months of work yet to do on this. So some of the imagery I'm doing down here, inspired by some black and white reproductions from watercolors in the form of Sabbath prayers in the form of watercolors and so on, in the collection of the Alsace and Lorraine Society for the History of Israelites, of Jews in Strasbourg, France. So there's one of the images here. This is from the mid-19th century there, which includes a hymn on the tablet called Luchadodi, which the text mentions was introduced into the Friday evening services by the Safed Kabbalists in the 16th century, that was the 1500s, and only later in the Western communities. So that's of interest to me, since on Friday night services in synagogue, that song, and in homes also, L'Chadodi is like a standard. It's like Americans singing the Star Spangled Banner, or someone singing it at the opening of a American baseball game, if I can make an analogy like that. And here's the other a sheet with prayers for Sabbath Eve, also from Alsace, the same collection, Strasbourg. And this is in the first half of the 19th century. That would be the first half of the 1800s. Interesting to me, just in terms of it was signed by Mayer Segan. My father's name would be, with a French pronunciation, Pére Jacques. So, could have been, related a few generations removed, perhaps, from the Stettels. And there you have it. Continuing on here. Yes, there we go. So, to be continued. Here on a return walk, as we did in 2011, and I picked up metal bits, scaffolding, and what's the other piece? Piece of concrete, brick and granite. And these will go in the mosaic. I'll be starting in late April of Pére Jacques, the French priest who died at Mauthausen. There's a British remain anti-Nazi pillbox from like 1941. Unusual brick clad. Here's more army structures from World War II here, or the remnants of it. David mentioned that sometimes this is sand. It's very windy today, so I keep blowing in our faces here. So, greetings, Shabbat Shalom. It is Saturday, May 16th, 2015. I've now completed the outside frame for the 7th mosaic drawing combo of the Under the Wing series. And I just have half a dozen or so sections yet to complete the inside frame here. Once that's done, the drawing will be stored until the mosaic is done in its entirety, which will include deciding what I want to do design-wise, breaking bowls, plates, saucers, and so on, adhering them with construction adhesive, and then grouting, and then cleaning the grout. Probably takes several months. So we have a Star of David, a partial Star of David there. We also have at least a symbolic broken cross, and this is the preceding mosaic drawing combo was right here. Put this in the video at the same time. Zlata Barshevsky, my mother's grandmother on her father's side, a great grandmother of mine. This was done in 2014. Talk about coming from disparate worlds. A very observant elderly Jewish woman brutalized and murdered by Nazis in Białystok, Poland, and Pére Jacques, a French priest and head of a school, died, well, he weighed 88 pounds at liberation at the madhouse and concentration death camp, where he was sent for having tried to save 3 Jewish children and 1 older Jewish youth, and both caught up in the maelstrom of what Elie Wiesel calls the kingdom of night, the Holocaust, the Shoah in Hebrew. So the broken cross symbolically, for me, not being a Christian, but as an observer, because Christianity certainly failed, and during the time of World War II, say nothing or everything of many other times through history, there's 2,000 years of persecution, violence, and against non-Christians and even against Christians, right into the current times, Christians murdering Christians of different denominations. But speaking of Elie Wiesel, a quote comes to mind. It's from this book published in 1975 by Paulus Press, a Catholic press, Harry James Cargus, in conversation with Elie Wiesel. Cargus was a late Catholic teacher, and Cargus asked Wiesel, "Can Jews and Christians have a meeting ground after Auschwitz?" Wiesel: "They can, because they should. But before that meeting can take place, certain words must be said. I think Jews must say, first, certain words which hurt Christians, that Auschwitz would not have been possible without Christianity." John the 23rd understood this. The fact that Hitler was never excommunicated. The fact that I think over 20% of the SS killers were practicing Christians. The fact that Pius XII never spoke up means that Christianity's role, or the Christian Church's role, both Protestant and Catholic, was so dominant in the fact that so many Jews could have been killed. All this has to be said. I think that Christians must recognize it as John the 23rd did. Once all this has been articulated, I think there can be a meeting ground, provided one does not try to convert the other. Conversion is not a solution. Authenticity is the solution. If the Christians give up their dream to convert Israel never tried to convert the church, then I'm sure we can find some common ground. So, in this regard, I feel as if the Roman Catholic Church is light years ahead of Pentecostal and evangelical Christians, the latter engaging in the crime of racial supremacism via religious faith. So anyway, to be continued. I'm looking forward to see how this turns out. And when I did the work of Zlata Barshevsky, my great-grandmother, I began it in early April and finished it in early September, right before the high holidays. So I'm going to see if I can keep to the same time schedule here and finish it before Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. There you have it, to be continued. On Monday, I think it's June 7th, it's certainly that. So the first section is done. Kind of looks like a spider, but it's actually a, like a, I don't know, like a, I forget what they're called, kind of like a deer with big antlers. Like a reindeer, I suppose. This stone here is from the beach in Newborough, Scotland, about a half hour north of Aberdeen. Same area where I picked up this metal bit, as the Brits would say, from decaying ruins of British Army constructed anti-Nazi, anti-tank fortifications that run along the entire length of the beach there. As were all of these other rocks, 2 brick remnants there from the fortifications. There you have it, to be continued. Evening, June 10th, 2015. Over the upper part of the star, I decided to put a gefilte based on this particular archaeological study I did back in, it was probably December. So in progress. Now I'm working on the kind of outside area, and then the fish itself will be some sort of light color stone, white, cream, something or other, with probably do some, get some yellow and white teeth in there too. So to be continued. Greetings, June 11th, 2015. The second section is now done, and the Pére Jacques mosaic work in progress. That'll eventually be part of the Pére Jacques mosaic drawing combo artwork. There was the first section there, the second section here, and to be continued. Bonsoir, June 14th, 2015. I just completed the third mosaic section for the Pére Jacques work. So the upper left corner, top corner, and upper right corner of the kind of Star of David shape there are now done. And now I'm going to go on to this one at lower left for the next section. Then I have to decide what I'm going to do here in this big expanse, which would be the center of the star, save for the fact that the drawing will be here. So to be continued. Greetings, June 15th, 2015. I'm on to the very top section here, which is above the corners of the Star of David. And I decided to put a bird in, glancing at some sketches of mine from years past. These are very quick studies of egrets and ibises, I guess, done in Florida in 1992 or 1993. So I was glancing at photos of each of the preceding mosaics, at least those that have pictorial imagery. I like the bird in the mosaic of Mira Steiner of Zagreb. That was the third mosaic drawing combo. So, just a quick background note here on where the imagery is coming from. To be continued. June 16th, 2015. I am working on the very upper right section, which is above the kind of upper right corner of the Star of David there. This will be a bird. I have to go see if I can find some sky blue or pale blue plates, or a plate. One plate will actually work at Goodwill nearby. If not, I'll try the Salvation Army. So to be continued. Greetings, June 21st, 2015. Quick overview here. That's the kind of top right sections. Top center inside the Star of David corner. Top left, the center of the Star of David area. We'll have an arg fish in there, as drawn in pencil and then a marker. And just to give viewers some historical reference, this is a photograph of the fourth mosaic drawing combo Mira Steiner of Zagreb. And there is an arg fish right there, just like I pictured it. There's another fish here, which may or may not be an arg fish, has some mean and nasty teeth though. There you have it. Greetings, June 22nd, 2015. I think the next time for the 8th, 9th, and 10th mosaic drawing combos, the End of the Wing series, if I do any more arg fish, I'm going to have to call up my dentist, because working on the arg fish teeth is kind of it's like serious dental work. And I had flashes of scenes from the famous 1970s movie with Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier, and the teeth pulling. Anyway, the teeth are done, so onto the back of the mouth of the arg fish, the kind of like chin area, the upper head, eyes, and then all the kind of sea that's around it. So moving along. June 23rd, 2015 evening, the Cookie Monster, as it was called by a friend in Chicago, Pan Pavel, aka Paul Romeko, who I first met in the summer art course in Krakow in summer '84. He saw the photo I posted of this on Facebook and said, "It's the Cookie Monster. It is coming along." So to be continued. Greetings, June 28th, 2015. I just completed the mouth section of the arg fish, and then I cleaned everything off the entire frame and base in order to get an idea of what I want to do where in which uncreated mosaic section. Also was able to reinsert the drawing in there to get an overview. Personally, I think it's coming out splendiferously. So there you have it for now, to be continued. Pére Jacques in progress, Under the Wings, Holocaust artwork number 63 in progress. July 2nd, 2015. So I've just done a quick drawing here, inspired by a plate or a photo or some sort of reproduction, I don't know what, in a 1930 French book on the structure and biology of fish by Louis Roulle, published in Paris, 1930. I don't remember where I bought this. I might have got it at a charity thrift in Britain 2, 3, 4 years ago. The fish called a cynodon, Cynodon. I looked it up on the internet. All I found was in Wikipedia, a fish of the Americas, but not any more about it. But it kind of keeping in mind the tradition of, in both Jewish and in Christian art, of fanciful flora, fauna, and fauna, creatures of all sorts. So we shall see how this turns out. This is in the upper right. July 5th, 2015, 3 days later after I did the drawing outline of the fish is now complete. Just a slow, quick overview here. There's the central arg fish in the center of the Star of David area. scaffold up there, a bird up there, a starfish there, and there you have it. The just completed fish to be continued. Greetings, and the 8th section is now done, and it was inspired by clothing the boys are wearing in a scene, and this is below the Star of David areas, by the way, so it's at the kind of left, kind of lower left, and the boys are wearing, this is a kind of a still from the movie, white shirts, kind of blue top sweaters perhaps, and these scarves that are kind of patterned in stripes with green and beige with something kind of nodding at there, the upper torso. So that's what we have here. There you have it. So I am in the not very bottom right, but lower right center here. Arches. And actually inspired by an exterior photo of the Subotica synagogue in Serbia. Same photo I used as a kind of inspiration source material for mosaic, much actually comparably sized mosaic tile section in the Under the Wings number 59 Mira Steiner of Zagreb mosaic drawing combo. Now, no relation to France per se, aside from the vast annihilation of European Jewry across the width and breadth of Europe, but arches do make an appearance in many a church and cathedral in France and elsewhere, as they do in a number of synagogues here and there. So in particular, I've used these images here, and the area around the very kind of narrow vertical window there, which we'll see here. I'm going to go to Goodwill, get some used clay pots for planting plants, and start hammering them up. And there we have it. The photograph appears in the book Synagogue Without Jews, authored in photographs by Rivka and Ben Zion Dorfman, who I met in April 2002 when they attended a workshop I facilitated at an international conference on the Holocaust and education at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. Synagogues Without Jews was published in 2000 by a Jewish Publication Society in Philly. I think it's now published no longer in Philly, owned by some university press somewhere. Anyway, to be continued. Again, lower right. So, we're talking about, there's the upper left, top, upper right, and there we have it. Proceeding slowly, but surely. Just think of how many years it took to build so many various temples, mosques, churches, cathedrals, synagogues. La Sagrada Familia has been underway since 1882. There you have it for now. Greetings. It is July 16th, 2015. One of my able assistants is going to participate in this. I've got just came back from Goodwill with two new kind of ceramic pots for the arches section here. His colleague actually is not feeling well. Got to speak slower. His colleague is not feeling well. and is going to have intestinal surgery later. That's right. But he wanted to watch. So, okay, here we go, folks. Ready? Ready. Okay, here we go. It's hard to do this with one hand, but we'll do our best. Okay, here we go. At the count of 3. You want to do English, French, Spanish, or Polish? Polish. Po polsku. Okay. 1, 2, 3. This guy's a cunning linguist. He can, this bird can Hakachainik in any language. You said it. Okay, here we go. Okay. That's what I was waiting for. Crash, boom, ba. He does extraordinary. God, I might rent you out to SKG, Spielberg Studios. You're a great sound effects artist. Whew. All right, let's have a look, folks. Okay. Looking good. Merci beaucoup. Grazie, gracias. Dziękuję bardzo. And lastly, in the Queen's English, thanks. Thanks a lot. That's what they say in Brooklyn and Queens. All right. It's great. A great work assistant. He even catches my unusual laugh. People have commented about it since I was like 5. That's great. Okay, on to the bottom areas, lower left, bottom center, lower right. That's where his feet are in the drawing, Pére Jacques. And then the grouting shall commence. Bottom right, bottom center, and bottom left. To be continued. The readings, July 23rd, 2015. It was 30 years ago. I guess late September, early October, somewhere around then, I left Poland after my postgraduate fellowship at the Academy of Fine Arts in Krakow vanished, and I went on to Paris. Last time I saw this Polish academic friend of mine, Barbara Krajewska, who taught in the chemistry department at the Jagiellonian University of Krakow. She gave me this bell, and the bell part with the string actually came loose some years ago, and I was just looking at it. And I think it's going to be reconstituted in a new life here. I have a scant few sections left to do, but I will see if I can get some of this intact here, and onto its new life in the Pére Jacques work. Almost worked. Oh, there we go. All right. I don't normally do this like this, but just for the sake of the video. And then I will finish up these sections here. Dziękuję bardzo, Pani Barbara. Bonsoir. Good evening. It's July 29th, 2015. Just to give viewers a little kind of hint of the grouting process. Not the cleaning end of it, but just getting the grout down and in. So I'm working on the section around the orgfish here. Big, juicy, whopping wallop of a grout here. And I got a squeegee. I'm going to go over this with these like mat board squares I've cut with the scissors. I'm going to really squeegee it in there. And then just a few minutes after that, I'm going to go over with kind of balled up clumps of paper towels and try to get as much off the upper surface as I can before it dries too much, because even then, I mean, that's what I did with this section around the eyes and mouth of the orgfish. May or may not be visible here. I've got the overhead fluorescence on, so it's reflecting, but there's a lot of work to do in cleaning off each tile, both with dental tools that I use, and I also have like these metal bristle brushes that go in an electric power drill, and I'll do a little bit glimpse of that also when I'm at that stage here. So anyway, there you have it for now. This is a major undertaking, naturally, and to be continued. Thanks for watching. Okay, a few minutes later here. I did manage to get some grout on this old metal piece from the late Paramount, well, I don't remember that actually, it was Paramount, it was in the late great music hall theater, built in 1929 in Seattle. Fixtures I bought when they were selling the, so there's an example of where I have to go back in and add some more grout, because I've got a little open crevice here. So I'll get to that, and also examples, sections I missed right there. I'll have to go in, but right now I'm going to try to get as much off the surface as I can before it hardens to concrete. Hence the dental tools given to me by a dentist in Columbia, Missouri before I graduated with my MFA in summer of 1980, which I used to use for etching, but have proved really terrific with this mosaic grout, chazarai, junk, this Yiddish. So anyway, on to the next clump of paper towels. Right, we're filming here. So just to give a peek of the work that goes into the cleaning the grout after I got the grout in. This is, I forgot what date it is, July 30th. So I just went over this area here with this heavy power drill. It's kind of like using a jackhammer. I can do about a half minute at a time, up to a minute max or so. And I just did this section here. But while this looks a lot cleaner than this over here, that doesn't mean that all's hunky-dory, because there's a whole lot of film on there. This is one of these old dental tools that has to be scraped off, like kind of square inch by square inch or something to that effect. So I'm going to just show you that for a few seconds here, and then give you a glimpse of what goes into the power drill work. What's that like? So some aspiring mosaic makers may say, you know what, I don't think I'll do this, I'll do something easier. Okay, here we go. But don't let that deter you if, you know, just take a look here, get that glove off. So I just get the old brush out and see what I did here. So I just worked on this one section with the power drill, like kind of round through here. And again, I'm going to have to go in with the dental tools, tile by tile, to really clean it up. So, there you have it. Thanks for watching. What is this? August 2nd here, 2015. So while I have probably a couple of thousand little grouty bits, sounds kind of Scottish, doesn't it? On the tiles of the Star of David areas, including the Arg fish. I'm continuing on here with grouting other sections. So we're now looking at this upside down and laying in a thick dollop of grout here. And just to give you all an idea what goes on into making this. All right, to be continued. Using a dampened old like towel, like terry cloth towel. Try to get as much of this off as I can. Just 2 minutes later, and I managed to. Well, actually, it's good to find this happen now. A piece of tile came out up, although I haven't actually found where it came from. I don't see the missing spot, but it will become visible at some point, sometime soon, I assume. And I've got a similar situation as I had over here, or a whole lot of, like you can see the bottom rims of like saucers, bowls, and plates, kind of protruding up at all sorts of odd angles and spatial perspectives, unlike completely flat tiles here, which are much easier to clean. So anyway, there you have it. Well, I'm glad to see that at age 65, which is somewhere between walking antique, a fossil, ancient, you know, to kids, children, teenagers, young adults, that I'm still learning. This is good. So I figured out two things in the course of doing this most recent grouting here. If I go over it with water-dampened towels, I can actually pull a sizable amount. It worked much better here than over here. I'm not sure why. For some reason, it took well to the bird, but not to the fish. So there's a question for like PBS science TV show producers to work on. But I also figured out how to get a lot of the gloppy grout out in between all these. It's kind of like think of this as like a micro, ultra miniature version of like Canyon de Chelly or some canyon like in Arizona or New Mexico. And I've got like all these ridges and crevices and canyons and whatever. Well, same thing that one uses to clean out one's earwax. And actually I was able to get a lot of it out, which is going to save me a lot of time later on from otherwise like letting it all harden as happened here and then having to excruciatingly remove all the bits which turned to concrete like hardness with the dental tools. So thanks be to Q-tips. Anyway, there you have it for now. Bonjour, it is. And I am on the last grouting section here. I've got a lot of surface cleaning to do yet throughout the whole piece, but the kind of the major bulk of the grout cleaning is grouting and grout cleaning is coming along. In fact, we will now see just these last few tiles here getting grout enmeshed in there. And there you have it. To be continued. Greetings. It is August 22nd, 2015. Shabbat Shalom. All my old friends are out here. Sir Herbert Reed, which I began earlier this year. It's dated January 18th, 2015. Double portrait in magical ink of Sir Herbert Reed with the requisite epaulets. There's I think that was an English channel gefilte there. And I forget the name of that character. But I'm going to finish the drawing in the amorphic areas there. Herbert came over to see what was going on here. My late Viennese Austrian Jewish refugee survivor friend Alex Schwartz also making an appearance here, and I've got enough done of the cleaning the grouty bits on the tiles where I've asked a photographer to assist, and hopefully he'll be able to schedule a time within the next couple of weeks, and I'll get this photographed. Then the Plex is supposed to be ready on the 4th of September, and then I will begin the last major technical part, which is the Plex will go over the drawing, and then I'll be constructing woods similar to that you see here, separating the mosaic areas from the drawing area to seal the drawing in under the Plex. So there's the shelf I did the last part in the last week, the last mosaic tile making section. Now I'm going to save further explanation of all the different things in here for when I have visitors who I'm just beginning to call, and I'm hoping to get at least a few Roman Catholic priests over as well to see this. So there you have it, the art of magic making in process. Greetings, September 15th, 2015. Oops, hang on here, I'm doing this. Oops. And the work is coming along. I counted, so far I've made 65 visible pieces. Kind of going all the way along the inner inside frame here. About halfway done now. And there's a smaller number of pieces, such as this one here, which has glue on it, which is going to be inserted in the gap between the plexiglass and the outside inside frame. There we go. Now I can switch to my right hand. I'm going to slide this up a bit. And then now it's ready for me. We'll have two pieces inserted on top of it. That one there, and then I'm going to cut something from amongst various piles, stacked containers of wood here to fit in there. So finally, this is drawing to a conclusion. I said I would predicted in May that I would have it done sometime around the Jewish high holidays. So Rosh Hashanah just rushed along, and I'll have this done before Yom Kippur, and then get it photographed and video the whole thing while it's being photographed. And there you have it, Pére Jacques, my educational memorial piece for education for children, youth, young adults, and adult audiences of all ages. So once all of this is done, and I'm going to be putting in a little bit of filler here and there in a few little sections. Then I will peel the paper off the plex, and we shall see the drawing. Whew. Readings October 21st, 2015 here. Jonathan Friedman visiting, and pointed out some interesting things I've never actually ever thought about. No one has addressed before about the eyes of Pére Jacques and of my great-grandmother Zlata Barshevsky.
Hi, I'm just speaking as a viewer,
of course,
not an art critic, but I instantly noticed as I approached them that in this work the friar or the priest is looking right at the viewer with a pleasant, maybe slightly enigmatic, but pleasant look on his face, and you feel that he's approachable. The woman in this picture appears to be, perhaps, since I know it's from a photo, because Akiva told me.
Same as Pére Jacques, also from the photo, yeah.
Is staring off maybe into this direction, but certainly not looking at the viewer, and there's really no detail from the photo to indicate, you can't really see eyes, and so
you can't see her pupil, a little hint of the white of the eye there?
You are saying that, but I would have to see the photo. It looks nothing more than abstract.
Oh, really?
Here. So, and I'm sure she has eyes. I'm just saying that.
Point this out. So there's the eye, and there's the pupil
there,
and there's the white section there.
But looking from a distance,
you're not going to see that.
It doesn't. It looks more abstract than real.
I see.
Particularly with when there's nothing on the other one. So she may have been squinting. She has sort of a dour expression on her face.
She was probably in her 80s also.
Understood. But I'm just noting a difference between them. That this man is looking at the viewer, and that gives the viewer sort of a pleasing quality, or at least does it to me, whereas she is not.
Sure.
And I'm not reading anything else into it, really, but it's just
good, interesting
observation,
fascinating visual observations to me. Thank you very much. I'll give you 1 sec. And this is October 28, 2015, the Pére Jacques work, seen against a white wall with better lighting than in my studio area. And there you have it. Dr. Michael Reed Trice here from Seattle U's School of Theology and Religion. We're looking at the Pére Jacques piece. And
the Pére Jacques piece has lots of angular aspects to it. You can see the Star of David off to the right here in fractured form, but also here.
Off to the left.
Off to the left, pardon me. Off to the left, thank you.
Right.
I did go into math or geography. And then here's a cross, which is also skewed, which is, I think, reminiscent of the whole piece. But what was one of the things I was just saying about the fractured reality?
You're on camera, so
I
keep
know,
it flowing.
I can't recall. Anyway, you have these. This is an axis point. It's somewhat like a shrine, the whole piece.
Mm-hmm.
It has a kind of shrine-like quality, which is to say, it's an axis where the sacred and the mundane take up the same actual space. So the question of sacredity, or the sacred in the midst of all of this, and the kind of regeneration of our humanity in people that we aspire to become amidst all this religious symbiology and fracture makes a lot of sense. So there is a shrine-like quality. So people should see this, and it should awaken a bit of the sense of the sacred in them, which is interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Greetings. It's December 30th, 2015. Rabbi Jim Morell visiting here. And we're looking at the last two mosaic drawing combos. Zlata Barshevsky of Bialystok, my great-grandmother, and the work I did this year, Père Jacques, the French priest, schoolhead righteous person made famous in the posthumously well-known to moviegoers in the 1987 movie Au revoir les enfants. And wondering if you have any.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah. The Kaddish is appropriate to reflect on these amazing works by Kiva, commemorating the true heroes of our generations who perished in the Holocaust, who saved people in the Holocaust. The Shoah is the great tragedy of Jewish history, and these are an amazing tribute to the 6 million and to many, many more million who helped, survived, who rescued, who fought, and of course, living close to 2016, even those who survived, most of them are gone by now. So it's a moving testimony, and the beauty of the work, and the mosaics, which are in contrast perhaps to the stark reality of the black and white of the Holocaust. But it's a real privilege to be here, to watch, to witness. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'll add to that the 4 million non-Jews who perished.
4 million. Well,
And as well, people like these righteous people like Pére Jacques who gave
Père
their life
Jacques.
trying to save Jews.
Did he pass?
He died at Mauthausen after liberation. He weighed 88 pounds when the American GIs arrived.
He did come through, but he didn't survive.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
That's great. Very touching.
Thank you, Rabbi. Dr. Michael Reed Trice here from Seattle U's School of Theology and Religion. We're looking at the Pére Jacques piece. And
the Pére Jacques piece has lots of angular aspects to it. You can see the Star of David off to the right here in fractured form, but also here.
Off to the left.
Off to the left, pardon me. Off to the left, thank you.
Right.
I did go into math or geography. And then here's a here's a cross, which is also skewed, which is, I think, reminiscent of the whole piece. But what was one of the things I was just saying about the fractured reality?
You're on camera, so
I
keep
know,
it flowing.
I can't recall. Anyway, you have these. This is an axis point. It's somewhat like a shrine. The whole piece. It has a kind of shrine-like quality, which is to say, it's an axis where the sacred and the mundane take up the same actual space. So the question of sacredity, or the sacred, in the midst of all of this, and the kind of regeneration of our humanity in people that we aspire to become, amidst all this religious symbology and fracture, makes a lot of sense. So there is a shrine-like quality. So people should see this, and it should awaken a bit of the sense of the sacred in them. Which is interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Readings. It's December 30th, 2015. Rabbi Jim Morrell visiting here. And we're looking at the last two mosaic drawing combos. Zlata Barshevsky of Bialystok, my great-grandmother, and the work I did this year, Pére Jacques, the French priest, schoolhead, righteous person, made famous in the posthumously well-known to moviegoers in the 1987 movie Au revoir les enfants. And wondering if you have any.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah. The Kaddish is appropriate to reflect on these amazing works by Kiva, commemorating the true heroes of our generations who perished in the Holocaust, who saved people in the Holocaust. The Shoah is the great tragedy of Jewish history, and these are an amazing tribute to the 6 million and to many, many more million who helped, survived, who rescued, who fought, and of course, living close to 2016, even those who survived, most of them are gone by now. So it's a moving testimony, and the beauty of the work, and the mosaics, which are in contrast perhaps to the stark reality of the black and white of the Holocaust. But it's a real privilege to be here, to watch, to witness. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'll add to that the 4 million non-Jews who perished.
Many more.
And as well,
more.
people like these righteous people like Pére Jacques who
Pére
gave their life
Jacques.
trying to save Jews.
Did he pass?
He died at Mauthausen after liberation. He weighed 88 pounds when the American GIs arrived.
He did come through. He didn't survive.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
That's great. Very touching.
Thank you, Rabbi. Okay.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh!
That's His Grace Brooke Rolston over there, exclaiming. Devorah Cost here with the accordion. We're going to sing a song or two in memory of my great-grandmother, Zlata Barshevsky.
That's your great-grandmother.
And Pére Jacques, the French priest and righteous person.
Oh, my.
Wow.
You're
He's a French priest. Huh?
Oh, my what?
Your great-grandmother.
This was
Grandmother.
This was the mother of my maternal of my mother's father, my mother's father's mother.
Okay.
So this would be on my
Yes.
the paternal grandmother on my maternal side.
Mother.
Yes.
Wow.
She lived in the Jewish home for the aged in Bialystok. Corresponded with my grandpa
Yes.
in New Jersey until sometime around the war years. How I would love to have that correspondence. And I have
But it's
no idea.
lost.
It's lost.
Oh.
He died in '68, and then my grandmother moved out of the house they lived in Englewood, New Jersey, and moved to the Workmen's Circle Home for the Aged in the Bronx, where she died 1981 at age 99 or 98.
1981.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, one of the things I'm interested to hear comments from the two of you, but one of the things that makes this pair an interesting pair to me is that we have two people from completely disparate lives in the continent of Europe. According to a late first cousin of my mom's, who I visited 3 times near Tel Aviv, where she lived, she was from Lithuania and had visited Zlata several times in the 1930s. She was very observant and would not eat in the homes of her children who lived in Europe. I don't think she ever saw my grandpa Harry again after he left for London and then New York, but they corresponded again for all those years. Pére Jacques, a Catholic priest,
Yes.
French, Catholic, and both caught up in the maelstrom, the kingdom of night, as Elie Wiesel calls it, of the genocide and murder and theft of 10 million, Europeans, Jewish and non-Jewish.
And Père Jacques is framed with the Star of David.
Yep, I've made him an honorary Juif,
You did.
Jew.
You did.
Something I would not do for delving into theological politics, but I would not do that for the late our own Aaron Lustiger, the Archbishop of Paris, who incensed Jews all over the map, especially when he went to Israel around 99. He always called himself a completed Jew. You and I have talked about that.
Oh my God. I've been
Yeah.
trying to tell people recently about what that phrase should mean, what they should hear in it and behind it. This is definitely added, since you had this work, you were ready to place Zlata in part of this mosaic. The space for her was already created, but this is added.
That wasn't done when you were
That was
visited.
not here. That
I
was
can tell
not-
exactly when you were here by looking at the video, which is up on YouTube, of your
course.
visit.
Of course.
Now, I want to hear your perspective on this as you are a Christian.
Well, it's the train tracks, and it's the train tracks that carried people to their deaths.
And what else?
And what else?
Think as a Christian what it might mean to you.
Train tracks as a Christian. My God, I don't know. Peace train? No.
The stakes, right?
Okay, keep
Well,
going.
Stakes
Maybe.
nailed
Keep going.
into
Maybe.
Jesus' hands and feet.
That's an
could
interesting
be.
interpretation.
That could be.
Keep going.
It's not easy for me to go any farther.
Thinking things aside, kind of as Devore was moving into, aside from train tracks.
Jail. It looks like
Jail, okay, that'll work.
jail.
I'm going to have to give a broad hint then.
You are.
Think,
Cargo.
while we have 5 railroad spikes here, 3 of them are prominent. And what does the number 3 connote to you?
Well, I'm no longer a Trinitarian, but a traditional Christian would be.
Right.
And they would
There
say
you go.
they would say Trinity is reflected. in
There you
that.
go. Continue.
Okay.
And
Wow.
Was
And-
that on
and
your mind
Devorah,
when you
that-
put that together?
well, that it occurred to me while I was working on it that I've made that this would give a frame of reference for Christians, Christianity. Now I'm going to answer, but I still want to hear your interpretations first, because otherwise, anything else for Brooke in particular? Even you said you're not a Trinitarian,
That's
so.
Yeah.
But in terms of what your knowledge of Christian belief and the Trinity and all that, tell me what you think of. I'm going to ask a question here, in terms of Christianity and the Holocaust. What comes to mind for you?
Oh, well, that Germany was nominally Christian, and that the greater part of the Christian church. I found a photograph recently. Maybe it's in one of the books that you've given me. A photograph of the Christian hierarchy raising their hands in Nazi salute.
Sure.
Beside Nazi soldiers,
Sure.
Nazi officers,
Right.
the same salute.
Right. The official Protestant and Catholic churches were both aligned with the Nazi government.
That's right. It took
And
the
according to
confessing church
Elie
bring
Wiesel,
any contrast.
Yeah. Just for viewers, the Confessing Church was the anti-Nazi resistant church led by Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
That's correct.
And in the book I have, Harry James Kargas, in conversation with Elie Wiesel. Kargas is a late Catholic teacher.
Okay.
It was published by the Catholic Polish Press in 1975. Wiesel mentions in response to a question by Kargas that 20% of the SS troops, murderers, were practicing Catholics and Protestants, which is a huge percentage. So when I think of this, I'm gonna
20%?
yeah, I'm going to move into
What else would they be?
I would have guessed a higher number.
Yeah, I would have too.
actually.
That's not very high.
actually 20% of however many thousands or tens of thousands were SS troops would be very high to be
Really?
to my and my
What
thinking.
else would they be if not practicing
My question
Christians
is
and Catholics?
divorce.
They would have
How
been
else?
like just non-practicing
Non-practicing
Protestant
anything?
and Catholic background. Yeah,
Oh.
just like
Actually, okay.
Yeah.
That surprises me because I would have guessed that nominally most Germans were part of some official state religion, but I don't know that.
I would have thought that too.
so. So my response, my thinking is basically addresses the failure of Christianity
Yes.
as a religion during the time of the Shoah, the Holocaust, and the murder of all these millions of people, not just Jews. I always like to point out
That's
there
right.
were 4 million non-Jews that were
That's
systematically
right.
murdered
That's
by
right.
the
That's
Nazis
right.
and fascists.
Romani,
Romani and
and gays.
a
And
250,000
Politicos.
German and Austrian physically and mentally disabled people were mainly gassed to death before they began what was called the final solution to the Jewish problem. So they were murdering
Austrian
and
and
Germans
German.
who were physically or mentally disabled,
How
like an
many did you
institution,
say?
about 250,000.
Really?
Lisa would have
Gas.
perished in that.
And that, to me, is basically what paved. It took the work of thousands of people to enable such a huge slaughter, and all kinds of people,
Before
judges,
the Jews were carted off?
before the final solution began. So, in order to had more people spoken out publicly, forcefully, loudly, at least according to literature I got from my first conference at Yad Vashem, it's entirely possible the Holocaust would not have happened, and the Holocaust did not have to happen. But it was the silence of so many people and/or the complicity of so many in enabling that first genocidal aspect of the regime to take place that led to the Holocaust.
How did the families?
Let their children
How did
go.
they corral them, and how did the families
Many
cope and deal with this and
I wonder
speak
if many
of
were
it?
institutionalized already,
Well, these people were already in institutions,
and so easily.
so it had to do
Easily
with
taken.
Nazi racial hygiene and eugenics and all that biz,
that's
which actually had counterparts in the United States.
Yes.
They were,
indeed.
like the African American prisoners who were, sterilized and
Forcefully sterilized.
yeah,
Forcibly.
down, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
And the other outstanding name that comes from Christianity is Martin Niemöller, the pastor theologian, who said, I didn't stand up for the communists because I wasn't and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't stand up for them.
Yeah,
and
I
when they
didn't-
finally came for me, there was no one left to stand up because
Yeah.
he also had not spoken out. And
Those
knew
are
his
his
culpability.
words, because
Those
that
are
was
his
made
words.
into a song. What's
it's
his name?
like 5 different
It's-
portions to it.
Maybe, is it Martin Niemöller?
I didn't
Martin
the
Niemöller.
trade unionist. But we're already at 9 minutes 54 seconds. Let's move into a song before I turn this
Oh,
off,
please, go for it. A song devoid.
All right, a song.
and we'll join in La 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 if need be.
I
We'll
will
do
try my
Hine
best.
Matov since that
Okay.
tends to be
And
a
that may
favorite
come
of
back to you.
yours.
Yep.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will welcome it.
Okay.
Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad Hine matu umanayim shevet achim gam yachad Hine matu shevet achim gam yachad shevet achim gam yachad hine matu manayim shevet achim gam yachad hine matu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Thank you. This is is his illustrious sire, aka Christopher Plumridge. We both worked at Seattle Public Library together for overlapped neighborhood branch for several years. And Sire, as I call him, was born in London. He was given up by his birth mother, was found floating in the Thames River by Alec Guinness, who brought him to a convent, and nuns took him in, and then he was raised by foster families. Eventually met an American gal from northern Midwest, and has been in Seattle actually longer than me, since the mid-70s. And I first visited here in 76, moved here in 80. And with that kind of infant Catholic nun relationship, I was particularly interested to have Sire see the latest mosaic drawing combo of Pére Jacques here. And his illustrious Sire does remember, you said you remember the Au revoir les enfants movie? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Christopher, or Sire, excuse me, is going to play a song here for the compilation video. Thank you, your illustrious Sire.
Still horribly out of tune.
It's okay, it sounds good.
Okay.
Viewers won't mind if it's a little out of tune. Thank you. That's wonderful. How old were you when you left England?
26.
26. And anything you'd like to say about the... You haven't seen any of the mosaic combos till now.
No, this is my first time seeing them.
Yeah. Anything you'd like
striking.
to... Striking.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But also, if are you going to do these? You should pan around these. Some beautiful pieces.
The Showa trilogy, as I call it, yeah. We're getting a lot of reflection from the outside light there, so I'll go back this way, yeah. Anything you want to add about the Pére Jacques work in particular? Could be on any subject related to just seeing it.
No, I'm a francophile. And he looks like a gentle priest.
Mm-hmm.
Kindly.
Yeah.
And, well, yes, recently, too, that's just been released from the archives in France, some of the secret, some of revealing of the treatment of the Jews that were shipped off out of France.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those papers are just now being released.
Oh, really?
And it's kind of embarrassing for many French people, I suppose.
I'm sure,
But,
yeah.
you know, the truth will out.
Mm-hmm. Thank you,
Thank
your
you.
illustrious Sire. It's good to have you
Thank you, yeah. No,
see
thank
these,
you.
and good to see you again after about, must be 7-8 years now. All right. Can we have a good tally-ho English here?
Yeah, tally ho.
All right.
Stiff upper lip and all that.
Ah,
Rather.
good. Great. Thank you. That's great. Merci beaucoup. Magnifique.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Please come up over here and get as close as you can. Move in closer, closer, so everyone can see as best as you're able to. And there are about somewhere between 60 and 63 works done now in the Under the Wings series. Got a huge, everybody, come closer please. Move in so people further back and see. What do I have, like 5-6 minutes? People can sit on the floor in front if you want, make it easier. The people in the back. In 1999, I did the first mosaic drawing combo, as I call it, called Young Man with a Star of David Armband in the Warsaw Ghetto. Can you all hear me? Yeah. And it's not using, oh, there we go. That work and another work were exhibited at the Fry in 2001, not far from here. And I set a goal. The staff at the Fry liked that first mosaic drawing combo so much, I decided I was going to set a goal of doing 9 more, 10 mosaic drawing combos. And I've completed 7 now. This was the 6th on the right here I did in 2014. The one on the left began in very late, end of December 2014 and completed it in September, just a few months ago. So those are and the first 6 of the mosaic drawing combos depict 7 European Jewish victims of the Nazis and fascists, all Polish Jewish, except for one Croatian Jewish woman. And then the 7th, I'll explain what this is in a sec. The 7th one, the one on the left, was by the first Christian victim of the Nazis, Pére Jacques, a Roman Catholic priest from France, who was made famous for moviegoers back in 1987 in a movie called Au revoir les enfants, Goodbye Children. Seattle Public Library has it in DVD, you can get it, or Netflix, or it's a wonderful movie. There's actually no horror in the movie at all. It's very benign. It's about his role in trying to save the lives of 3 French Jewish children. The film director was a pupil in the school during the war, and one of his best friend was one of the 3 Jewish boys. The 3 Jewish boys were arrested, as was Pére Jacques, by the Nazi Gestapo and so on. The boys were murdered at Auschwitz. Pére Jacques was alive at liberation. He was born in 1900. So he was either 44 or 45 at liberation at the Mauthausen concentration death camp in Austria. Weighing 88 pounds, he succumbed, as happened to many of the concentration death camp survivors in camps across Europe. I have 3 more mosaic drawing combos I'm planning to do the next several years. I'm approaching 66 soon, so I gotta keep going here. And for those remaining 3, I'm also going to depict non-Jewish victims of the Nazis to symbolically represent the 10 million victims who were murdered by the Nazis and fascists. They include, and I always like to mention this in particular, I always get these 2 figures mixed up. One of them was 250,000. The numbers are beyond our comprehension. The other one was 500,000. Romani and Sinti people were targeted for death across Europe, gypsies in common usage, just like Jewish people were. And before they began the final solution to the Jewish problem, as it was called, they systematically murdered, I guess that was 250,000, physically and mentally disabled Protestant and Catholic Austrians and Germans. And had more people spoken up about that, it's entirely possible the final solution that followed would not have happened. The Holocaust did not have to happen. This is my great-grandmother. Her name was Lada Barshevsky, and my grandfather, who I knew, was one of her sons. He was born around 1881 or 82, so I figured she was probably born around 1860. She could have actually been alive at the time I was born, or as a child, hadn't it been for the the Nazi genocide. She lived in a Jewish old folks' home in a large city in northeast Poland called Białystok. My grandfather corresponded with her from the time he left Poland around 1903 till sometime after the Nazi invasion. I'd like to go back in time and talk to my grandfather and ask him, what was that like for him? All of a sudden, all this correspondence ended and you found out what was going on in the camps and all that, because he's gone. But a particular note about these two, people from completely different worlds. She was very observant. She had other children, sons who stayed in Europe. One lived had moved to Berlin from Poland. Another one was in Lithuania. And she wouldn't eat in the homes of her children because they were non-observant. She was very devout. Pére Jacques, a Roman Catholic priest, about as different as you can get historically in terms of European history, Christian in relation to Christianity and Jewish history over at least the last 1,000 years of Christian Europe, both caught up in this vast genocide and theft all across Europe. So to me, they make an ironic pairing in terms of their backgrounds and their demise. We might have, a minute for questions here, or the Q&A is going to be after? Sorry, I forget how this is going to be done. Anyone have a quick question? We have a terrific keynote speaker coming up. Question? Anybody? Could be about anything. Art, history, aesthetics, religion, whatever. Now, this is even shyer than the audiences in Scotland. Yeah.
Could you say a little bit about the objects on the frame?
Objects on the frame.
On the edges.
On the edges. This was given to me actually by a Catholic friend who was in an art studio with me for years, Pioneer Sculpture of the Quake. I don't know where she got it. And I've used the same molding. It's probably about 100 years old in several of the mosaic drawing combos. These gray sections were from pieces of a rowboat I scrounged that was like a scrap outdoors one year. I pick up things, I've guest taught a lot, 7 times in Israel, numerous teaching trips to England, Scotland, Wales. I like to walk beaches and so on. This is brick debris outside someone's home in Jerusalem I picked up. This old, what you call it, it's like a light bulb picture from the old Music Hall Theater, which is a Paramount movie palace in Seattle, torn down in 1991. This is from my family's kitchen when I was growing up in the 1950s. I thought, well, I'd make a relation between my mother and her grandmother and embed that there. Less than the amount of junk that my nephews will eventually inherit. I've got 3 kind of silver plate cups I bought at a shop in a city called Jaffa, a mixed Arab-Jewish city near Tel Aviv in Israel. The railroad spikes, I'm going to wait on that, but I'll just mention I picked those up on the Seattle waterfront. I worked at the Magnolia Library for years, and I used to commute from the Pike Market where I lived. And all these railroad spikes have made their way into several of my Holocaust-themed artworks. This is supposed to be a broken cross here, symbolic. There's this giant, like, tool thing down here. Everyone can, afterwards, if you can take a quick look. I picked that up on a beach in northeast Scotland last March when I was teaching in Scottish schools. There were all these ruins of, decaying ruins of anti-Nazi, anti-tank fortifications built by the British Army in 1941 and 42. Anyway, so I've got a little British Army World War II history in relation to Nazism there, along with a whole bunch of like brick and stones and stuff. This rock here is either from the beach in Haifa in Israel or from a walk on the Tiber River in Rome. I went to Rome for a week in 2010, I forget which. But that's just an example of how some things like this I may just pick up at Goodwill. So a friend of mine has called it my effective use of detritus, odds and ends showing up. This is from like an old sewing machine cabinet, for example, that a friend was moving to a recycling place.
Mickey Mouse was given to me by a girlfriend 30 years ago. I don't know whether my great-grandma Zlata ever saw a movie. It's entirely possible that she had. They might have brought in a movie projector into the old folks' home in that city in Bialystok. I don't know where she died either. She could have died in the ghetto. Most of Bialystok's Jews were deported to a death camp called Treblinka. So, thanks. Any other questions quickly before probably taking more than enough time here? One more question.
Yes. What inspired your first mosaic?
Well, the first mosaic was actually part of the series, most of which is drawings. And the first drawing I did is a drawing of a trolley car that was in the Warsaw Ghetto, which is a concentration camp itself, that I did in 1991. That was inspired, kind of an outgrowth of Dean Marcoli mentioned that I spent 10 weeks in Poland in the mid-'80s, and I began doing artistic responses to my time in Poland, both in Poland and as soon as I came back. I consider Poland like the world's largest Jewish graveyard, all unconsecrated because most of the people went up and spoke in ash. So kind of the mosaic drawing combos were kind of just an outgrowth of all the drawings done over the years. Were kind of just a progression artistically.
Thank you.
Thanks. Why don't we all sit down and we can hear Mr. Hirschman speak. Thank you.